The January 6th House Select Committee concluded its last primetime hearing before the midterms and will be issuing legal summons for former President Donald Trump to testify. The panel voted in favor of subpoenaing Trump in relation to his involvement during the Capitol riot.
He's required to answer to those millions of Americans whose votes he wanted to throw out as part of his scheme to remain in power. And whatever is underway to ensure this accountability under law, this committee will demand a full accounting to every American person of the events of January 6th. So it is our obligation to seek Donald Trump's testimony.
Now, all 9 committee members voted to subpoena Trump for documents and testimony, a decision he expectedly blasted.
Aye. Mr. Aguilar, aye. Mrs. Murphy?
Aye.
Mrs. Murphy, aye. Mr. Raskin?
Aye.
Mr. Raskin, aye. Mrs. Luria?
Aye.
Mrs. Luria, aye. Mr. Kinzinger?
Kinzinger, aye.
Mr. Kinzinger, aye. Mr. Chairman?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, aye.
The clerk will report the vote.
Mr. Chairman, on this vote, there are 9 ayes.
Now, taking to a social media platform, Trump questioned why the committee did not call him months ago and called it a total bust that is further dividing America. This after Trump prevented many of his aides from cooperating with the committee, urging them to invoke privilege. And the other highlight of the meeting was the committee releasing previously unseen footage from the 6th of January. Let's just take a look at some of the footage first.
You can maintain the sense that people have that there's some security or some confidence that government can function and that we can elect the President of the United States. Did we go back into session?
We did go back into session, but now apparently everybody on the floor is putting on tear gas masks to prepare for a breach. Well, I'm trying to get more information.
They're putting on their
Tear gas masks.
I'm going to call up the effing Secretary of DOD. We have some senators who are still in their hideaways. They need massive personnel now. Can you get the Maryland National Guard to come too?
Oh my gosh, they're just breaking windows, they're doing all kinds of, it's really that they said somebody was shot. It was just horrendous, and all at the instigation of the President of the United States.
Yeah, why don't you get the President to tell them to leave the Capitol, Mr. Attorney General, in your law enforcement responsibility? A public statement, they should all leave.
Now, just as you saw the U.S. House Speaker and Senate Majority Leader phoning security officials for help during the deadly assault, the footage is meant to highlight how the legislative branch was left to fend for themselves as former President Trump sat on his hands, while his supporters ransacked the U.S. Capitol. The committee also disclosed snippets from the nearly 1 million documents that they've received from the Secret Services, detailing how officials knew days before the 6th of January the violence that could unfold. In an email sent on the 26th of December, a Secret Service field office relayed a tip that the Proud Boys band planned to march into Washington.
When the Secret Service told him he would not be going to the Capitol after his speech.
Was still possible.
In this report received on December 26th, the Secret Service field office relayed a tip that had been received by the FBI. According to the source of the tip, the Proud Boys plan to march armed into D.C. They think that they will have a large enough group to march into D.C. armed, the source reported, and will outnumber the police so they can't be stopped. The source went on to say their plan is to literally kill people. Please take this tip seriously and investigate further.
Now, under the committee rules, the January 6th panel is to produce a report of its findings, likely in December. The committee will dissolve 30 days after publication of that report. And with the new Congress in January, the House committee has been meeting for over a year and has held a few high-profile hearings in its attempt to gather interviews and evidence from the day of the riot. Now, for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani sent us this report from New York. Listen in.
The January 6th committee has voted to subpoena former U.S. President Donald Trump. It's rare, but not without precedent, for Congress to subpoena a former or sitting U.S. president. It's very unlikely that Donald Trump would comply with the subpoena, and the committee likely does not have time for a legal battle. The committee definitely did know this. However, it was clear that it did want to make headlines with this news, and it did. The committee also played a never-before-seen dramatic video of lawmakers during January 6th, including Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, looking at the events unfolding at the Capitol with dismay and trying to make contact with other lawmakers. While the majority of Americans do believe that what happened on January 6th was deplorable, many also agree that the January 6th committee is hardly the arbiter of truth, as most Americans have already tuned out and are focusing on other issues like kitchen table issues, inflation, and issues that are related to the midterm elections. For the most part, Americans have moved on. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.